Have you ever wondered why some people seem genuinely happy, even when nobody praises them, notices them, or approves of what they do? They don't constantly check how many likes they received. They don't need compliments to feel confident. They don't change themselves just to fit in. Somehow, their happiness seems to come from a place that other people can't reach. At first glance, it may look like they simply don't care what others think. But psychology reveals something much deeper. The happiest people aren't the ones who receive the most validation. They're often the ones who no longer depend on it. In today's video, we'll explore the fascinating psychology behind people who stay happy without anyone's validation, and why developing this mindset may be one of the most powerful changes you can make in your own life. From childhood, almost everyone learns to seek approval. A child smiles after drawing a picture and immediately looks toward their parents, hoping to hear, "Good job." Students study harder for good grades and recognition. Adults chase promotions, compliments, followers, and social acceptance. Our brains naturally associate approval with safety and belonging because, throughout human history, being accepted by the group increased our chances of survival. Psychologists call this the human need for social belonging. Wanting acceptance is completely normal. The problem begins when approval becomes the only source of happiness. Many people unknowingly hand over control of their emotions to everyone around them. A compliment makes them feel valuable. Criticism destroys their confidence. Being ignored makes them question their worth. When your happiness depends entirely on other people's opinions, you give strangers enormous power over your emotional life. People who stay happy without validation understand something different. They separate their self-worth from other people's reactions. Instead of asking, "Do people like me?" they ask, "Am I living according to my own values?" That small shift changes everything. Psychology refers to this as an internal locus of control. People with an internal locus of control believe that their lives are shaped mainly by their own choices rather than by external praise or criticism. Instead of waiting for permission to feel successful, they define success for themselves. This doesn't mean they ignore feedback. It simply means feedback doesn't define their identity. Imagine planting a tree. If you dig it up every few days to check whether it's growing, you'll only damage its roots. Growth happens quietly. The same is true for confidence. Constantly seeking validation interrupts the process of developing genuine self-belief. One of the biggest traps in modern life is social comparison. Every day, people scroll through carefully edited photos, luxury vacations, achievements, perfect relationships, and smiling faces. The brain naturally compares. But what it forgets is that it's comparing real life with someone else's highlight reel. Psychologists have found that excessive social comparison is strongly linked to lower self-esteem, anxiety, and reduced life satisfaction. People who don't seek validation spend less time comparing themselves. Instead of competing with others, they compete with the person they were yesterday. Their progress becomes personal, not public. Another reason these people stay happy is that they don't confuse attention with love. Social media has made attention incredibly easy to measure. Likes, views, followers, comments. But numbers don't necessarily reflect genuine connection. Someone can have millions of followers and still feel lonely. Another person may have only a few close friends and feel deeply fulfilled. Validation feels good. Connection feels meaningful. Psychology reminds us that these are not the same thing. Emotionally independent people invest more energy in building authentic relationships than collecting approval from strangers. There's another fascinating concept called intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means doing something because the activity itself is rewarding, not because someone else applauds it. Think of an artist who paints because they love creating. A musician who practices because music brings peace. A runner who enjoys the feeling of becoming stronger. These people don't need constant recognition because the reward already exists inside the experience. Research consistently shows that intrinsic motivation leads to greater happiness, persistence, creativity, and long-term satisfaction than external rewards alone. Another powerful habit shared by people who don't seek validation is self-acceptance. They know they're imperfect. They know they'll make mistakes. But instead of constantly hiding flaws, they accept them as part of being human. Ironically, accepting imperfections often reduces the fear of judgment. When you stop trying to appear perfect, you stop worrying so much about being criticized. Psychologist Carl Rogers believed that genuine personal growth begins with unconditional self-acceptance. Not perfection. Acceptance. This doesn't mean giving up on improvement. It means improving because you value yourself, not because you hate yourself. These individuals also understand something most people overlook. Not everyone will like you. No matter how kind, intelligent, talented, or generous you become, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will criticize you. Someone simply won't connect with your personality. Trying to satisfy everyone is psychologically exhausting because it's impossible. The happiest people stop chasing universal approval. Instead, they focus on authenticity. They ask themselves one important question. Am I being true to who I am? If the answer is yes, other opinions lose much of their emotional power. People who stay happy without validation also become better decision makers. Imagine making every life decision based on what others might think. Which career should you choose? What clothes should you wear? What hobbies should you pursue? Whom should you marry? If every decision depends on public approval, your life slowly becomes someone else's project. Psychology shows that autonomy, the feeling that you're choosing your own path, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term happiness. Freedom creates fulfillment. Approval creates temporary comfort. There is an important difference. Another interesting observation is that validation often behaves like an addiction. The first compliment feels exciting. Then you want another. Then another. Eventually, yesterday's praise is no longer enough. Your brain begins chasing the next source of approval. This cycle closely resembles the reward systems involved in many addictive behaviors. That's why relying entirely on external validation rarely creates lasting happiness. It creates dependency. People who break this cycle discover something surprising. Peace feels better than constant applause. Because peace stays even when nobody is watching. Perhaps the greatest psychological shift happens when people stop asking, "How do I look to others?" and begin asking, "How do I feel about myself?" That single question redirects attention inward. Instead of performing for an audience, they begin living intentionally. Instead of proving their worth, they begin recognizing it. Instead of seeking permission to be happy, they simply choose happiness. This doesn't happen overnight. Building internal confidence takes time. It requires self-awareness, reflection, healthy boundaries, and the courage to disappoint people when necessary. But every small step toward self-acceptance reduces the need for outside approval. Eventually, happiness becomes something you carry within you, or not something handed to you by someone else. The truth is, validation isn't bad. Everyone appreciates encouragement and recognition. The danger comes when you believe you cannot be happy without them. Because if someone else controls your happiness, they also control your peace. The happiest people aren't those who receive the most applause. They're the ones who have learned to clap for themselves when nobody else does. So the next time you find yourself searching for approval, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, am I living for other people's expectations or my own values? The answer to that question may change your life. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating psychology content. Thanks for watching Mantara X. See you in the next video.